Yeah, look, I think it starts with sort of education. You know, we need, a stronger tech-focused mathematics education so that we can bring that skill set through our universities and colleges systems, and then, develop the industry from there. And when you look at some of the economies that are well ranked ahead of us, the amount of investment that they have going into their technology sector is just far greater. And if I take the example of Israel, Israel probably has invested $500 billion over 20 years to, grow their tech sector to 1 in 6 jobs. So the digitisation of the economy, if you're not there, you're not going to be competitive as a society. So, we need investment and capital, but we also need governments to be thinking about bringing some of those multinational corporations into Australia to sort of house their digital ecosystems here, not just their sales outposts, but, research centres where we can, get the benefit of two-way communication between big business and our up and growing innovation ecosystem here.
What about you? Sophistication measures the diversity and know-how of your people. We're not ranked very highly, still earning a lot of money from our agriculture and resources. What does that mean, and what can we do about it?
We have to change as quickly as possible. I think the practical reality, though, is that it takes time to change the human capital in a society. And what we really need to do is focus on creating the pathway, like almost a visual pathway for students to be able to visualize how and why they need to understand technology and why that's a practical future career path for them. Because if they can't imagine it, they won't pursue it, and then we won't have the talent and we will continue to drop behind.
And Minister, from your perspective in building digital services, obviously the digital literacy of your population is critical. How do you go about providing equity and access when there's such diversity in the digital literacy across the population?
Yeah, it's a great question, because the best way to bring people along in a journey is, obviously you've got to get the narrative right, but the easiest way is to give them example. And the digital driver's license is an example. So if I talk about it theoretically, people go, yeah, whatever. But if I say, have a look at this, I've just saved you 3 hours in your day, people will quickly absorb it as not just a technology piece, but as a ease of life piece. So we've got to make sure that, of course, we bring everybody on the journey. But one of the big insights out of the COVID pandemic that we're going through is that in the past, culturally, people would say, I can't access digital, I can't work from home, I can't do all of these things. But now all of a sudden, because we have to, it's amazing how quickly we've adopted. Now, we've got to use that as a pivot point, in my view. So, some people would see it as rightly as an opportunity. I almost see it as an obligation that we must do more in this space, because we've gone through too much suffering. We've lost lives, we've lost freedoms, we've lost jobs. We have an obligation to use this point in history to pivot to a smarter Australia, not from a lucky country, but to a smart country.
The Data 61 Artificial Intelligence Roadmap, which was released at the end of last year, and you can see comparisons between the 14 most developed economies in the world and their artificial intelligence investments compared to where Australia is. When we start to talk about capability and the ability to digitise, how important is AI? And again, is that ranking in terms of investment going to help or hinder us?
I believe that we have a long way to go to increase our investment in AI. It's really great to look at roadmaps, because they're just a snapshot of the current status. We actually in Australia, by ranking, by the Web of Sciences, by the ranking of the number of publications and research outputs we create in this country, are not just in the top 10, we are number 1 per capita. So we don't have the population to do tens of thousands, but we are number 1 per capita. Now, of course, the challenge there is the translation of that research. So we've got the top research by that ranking in the world, in AI. So the next step is to take that and really take the big step of investing in actually growing that pie. Israel was mentioned earlier. The investment there, they put in $1 billion into cybersecurity alone. I believe they're putting another $1 billion in. The federal government is putting $1 billion into AI now. We've got to look at all those things, the investment from not just government, but from the industry sector. We've got to grow the large industry players who can actually open up research labs that we can then nurture the startup ecosystem with. Because the interesting thing is a lot of people don't know that the top innovation for business actually occurs within 30 kilometres of a university, 50%, at 50% in the world. So in other words, that means we've got to align the university sector with the industry and with government, because that is where we really need to focus the ecosystem and investment.